using a straight line angle, I can take 3 measurements around.
Live from Studio 4 in beautiful Naperville, Illinois, Spanesi Interactive Channel continues with Mr. John Shoemaker from BASF. Now your host, COO of Spanesi Americas, Mr. Tim Morgan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great day in the collision repair industry. And I have to thank a good friend of mine for taking some time out of his road warrior duties, I'll call it, because as I can see, he's sitting in a hotel room somewhere in the U.S. John, I really got to thank you for taking some time to come chat with us about some key things that you see in the industry today that can help the shops to be able to alleviate some bottlenecks and be more efficient in what they do. And that's what it's all about. When we started to put together this Spanesi Interactive channel, if you want to call it, we wanted to look past just Spanesi, and there's a lot of people that we partner with out in the field that people don't even know about, or we chat with at different shows and we compare different things. In John, our paths have crossed a couple of times of, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? And I thought it was great if we could get you to, share some of your knowledge with our group.
Yeah, more than happy to do so. And I'm happy I work for a company like BASF that allows me to take time and do things like this and just talk to the industry, just how they can get a little bit better every single day.
Let's start off with the hard-hitting questions, because we want to get this out of the way. And everybody's experiencing this, but let's talk about the rising costs of paint and materials right now in the marketplace with the inflation that we're experiencing in North America here. Can you tell us a little bit about how, as a shop owner, I can contain those costs and actually make a profit from them?
Well, to me, paint's a part, and it should be invoiced like a part. Use your paint mixing computer. All the systems. I've worked with all the systems. They all have a way to print out an invoice. Uh, Everything around us is going up. It's paint. The only thing that uh, I was doing with a guy in a that was complaining about parts. And I said, well, you have some archive files, don't you? Yeah. And I says, you're a 4 ship. I bet you back 2015, 2016, the Ford truck. Let's see what that cost. Did that. We went to one of his files. fender cross. Now let's spend on that. Today, and what Thir- 33% difference. I says it's complaining to the cost of that Ford fender is 33. higher than it was 5 years ago. And he says, well, no. Nobody. He says, we get a voice, we build our invoice. Think of billing that way. Your paint invoice. And bill your paint off. And it sounds, because it really, this is how we're talking long ago, a meeting, and surprise equals doing.
I think, if I can add, I think that's part of the problem. In the of the owner and the end. It's the way it's always been. Always done it this way, moving towards the way that you're telling that they should take a look at business. Be able to move that direction.
In about that saying, we've drilled that, but these kind of control our collision have to solve that. And
yeah,
a lot of
agree. Bottom line at the end, every shops and shops fix the same, be different from one fix. So we need to base our point of make their charge. For instance, I would it also be when it comes to why is it sort instead of who are in the cost?
You're absolutely right. And if you business, I mean, when I was in college and expected profit gives you that way. I was talking to a shop. I think I'm going to watch this well a little bit and think, is it going to defend that? He goes, what do you mean? I says, when you're yourselves, people want to look at that, watch, and watch. So I jump up at another job, doing something. What it take a pro level 3, does it cost to maintain that car? Calculate that out, cost a portion of his health. What about let's find here of what for you that by labor rate and you can, because you did, and that'd be over if you want to add.
I was just as you have to training somewhere for 3-4 days when you have, there's everything and it build out like as you go up a couple bucks could be in fact by the out. I mean the costing every rising. It's paying for change. One of the first calls I made was to the landlord and said, "Up for can I renew 3 block the rate, maintain and I will what's really going on around trying to running them."
Well, I don't think business narrow and what loud and large and in the middle. Only any money are those around.
Absolutely.
And out narrow their charges, rate, billing for paint costs. It would be there could be your counter and you're so going to afford and retain that of trying to, every year or how the term shops is just, the way down this morning. We've to catch everybody's labor based what they're what is the cost to a nice sales to
other business wouldn't our business work that way.
I hate field because every is cost of good, right? Cost of goods sold for the collision industry. We don't
exactly correct.
I think we're pretty. We've done a paint. I don't know how it actually goes to us when you do that.
People. That's to be what it's coming. Some approaching 5. Girls that have cars anymore. Pearl color, and talk to and for that. So there's that's probably this with something else that's that board these colors and have come print says allow based assume to pay different letters at more choice based assume is also the bull. Yeah.
At in the new you get over that color formula that may be in motors and certain material and materials what and things are up.
Another risk is that line on estimate for and all that farther in pages. It reimburse use finished process they'd kind of 30% would or that like half other product.
Just some stuff kind of in terms of an estimate top.
I think it's in of both estimate and hard. You training that make research behind all begin time because all holding needs starts the office at good ends. So where can I help you? Well, you just have to make my business. Business BASF work is the first thing. Just see are handing the back. Don't worry about it. Well, let's see how the process. Well, I have a problem. Let's go back. Should RO the same. It's all good. He said you with my better as well. Tools box front office can process. He goes, well, you can't. Well, but it is your money. Says look at the understand problem there. Kind of talk merge and see what's in fact. They don't know. They don't need to come to do your job and need it.
And one of the things that I always in your shops, my so many up and will come out over never been able to buy if we're got to be a wise coach mentality.
Well, the nest gives you 3 things. Encourage you.
I would have to try and pull your as a good partner.
Let's think by calling them as third-party appraisals, right? Air plan, appraisal, education, appraisal, order. Who, what, how? Have an estimate of ways that you to do that. So if they're looking at protection, apply it's with this. Have you just put on that toolbox? The first gotta add also OP wax special. Would you want simple step we've created? I know is it easy? I heard it says well from to repair over the holiday wrong. Anytime something be measurements simple step afraid. Way to tie wrong. Grab and then it's 3 separate pulls. Separate pulls.
It drives me crazy when we're doing training. Ask is how many people to the front of a vehicle I'd say that's doing first measure the cards from that car, because then there that line item we determine anything that is proper for the, he said something is it's going to be multiple. That one of the things is a vehicle. Now I'm there and the air either steering system connected need
and teach them. They go, oh, and have at that point we only give it this way. Notes, location, time, and you get the full because a lot of paint.
I know that ability the time vehicle not why not in the buyer I'm going to be able to answer some of the test all the time that from through any for the facility to car.
Down in Jacksonville, Florida, I work with, and in that blueprinting area, there's a measuring system, there's a scan tool, and there's a photospectrometer to measure the color, to determine the color. All that happens right there in the blueprint area. They've been trained to use the photospectrometer where you have to clean the area, you have to buff it. And then they count the panels and use the panel calculator, and they plug into, it's direct connected to the paint mixing computer, that this RO number is, here's the color, it's cued in there. So when it goes to the paint shop, all that has to happen is the painter goes to the RO number, pulls it down. He says, oh, 6 panels. I need this much paint. And he starts with his refinish process. It's all done right up front, right on day one. And
right. And so you're saving how much time by the time it gets to the paint shop by doing that on day one? It's amazing.
Yes, it is. Because you're not stopping, waiting, loading it up. Oh, somebody's mixing paint, so I can't get to the computer to download the color. It's all done.
John, how long does it take to repay for a system like that in terms of productivity? Is it a 6 months, a year, 2 years? You know, what's the investment?
You know, a day. You know, if you just think about it, if you're able to paint one more car a day, average repair order, let's use a round number of $3,500. I'm sitting here, I don't have a calculator, but if you multiply $3,500 by 5 days and then by 52, I think you'll see you pay for this very, very quickly just by painting one more car a day.
Well, and that's back to your point with how many ROs can I put in a booth at a time?
Exactly.
A lot of shops that we go into, and when I sit down after we've done a new installation in a spray booth situation, explaining to the painter that, all right, now we're going to load this with 7 different bumper covers, and we're going to base them all, and then we're going to clear them all, and then we're going to bake cycle once. And sometimes you get that deer in the headlights that, well, wait a minute, I can't do that. Well, if your booth is running efficiently and you have airflow, there's no reason why you can't paint multiple colors. If you have your panels staged correctly in a booth, and be able to operate that way. So a lot of shops could go in the morning and have, 2-3 booth cycles of just panels or bumper covers, whatever it is, without even putting a car in the booth.
And I got called, I do shop layouts and I help people position equipment. And, we've talked about all of this before, but I had a customer who says, hey, I've got to put a second booth in. I know my shop's tight, but I know you could come down and work some magic and show me where I could put another booth. So I went down there and I'm kind of looking around, and I happened to walk by the paint booth and it's running and it just flipped off bake. So the lights came on. There was one bumper in it. I said, okay. So I'm kind of watching. Now I'm kind of looking because, whenever you walk into a shop, you never solve the problem you were called in there to fix. You fix 2 other problems that make the other problem go away. Right. So I grabbed the owner. I says, come here and look. I said, why do you want another booth? He says, because I'm not getting enough paint work done. I says, well, what if we did the paint work differently? Would that help? And he goes, what do you mean? I says, well, look, that just flipped off bake. There's one bumper in it. And there's 2 doors and a lift gate right over here. He goes, yeah, but I think they were different colors. I said, okay, let's stop for a minute. Let's get that bumper out of there. And I got my little laser measure. I measured the inside of his booth. And then I grabbed some of his green masking tape and I measured outside his booth a staging area exactly the same size as his booth. I says, let's start grabbing parts. He says, but they're different colors. I don't care if they're different colors. I says, which way's the air flowing in your booth? And we kind of turned the blowers on. I says, let's just go from dark to light. We'll put the darker panels in the back, paint them first, and we'll walk our way to the door. That's where the guy's going anyhow. He's going to come back out of the booth. We did that, and just like you told, but we got 4 ROs in that one cycle.
Right.
At 3 o'clock that day, we had more cars painted than they'd done in 3 days, just by staging the booth. And I says, how much were you gonna, pay for another booth? He says, man, it's been from anything from 80,000 to 140,000. I says, okay. I says, well, I guess my fee's only 90,000 then.
Nice. I love it. But understandably, yeah, sometimes you have to think outside the box, and what's always, and back to what we said in the beginning, what's always been the standard doesn't have to be the standard. I mean, when you talk about processes and blueprinting, there's certain things that some facilities do that others don't. And I think that you have to look at what's going to work in your facility, but you got to have an open mind. You also have to have buy-in from the technicians.
I agree, and it seems like, just like the guy with the booth, I'm not getting enough paint work done, so let's put another booth in. Oh, I'm not getting enough body work done in this building. Let me add, 10,000 square feet. That's not always the answer.
I see where you're going with that. It's funny, adding the 10,000 square feet. And I said to a customer one time, did you ever consider a second shift?
Yeah. Well, what about going in and looking at what you're doing with the square footage you have already? Right. So I pull up to a shop and I see this new concrete pad. I says, what are you doing? He says, when I can afford it, I'm going to put some walls there and I'm going to expand my paint shop. Well, right next to his paint shop is a nice work area that's already there and heated, but it just has stuff in it. I says, well, why don't you move all that stuff? He says, well, I don't have any place to walk around. That building area that had a bunch of just shelving units in it. And I said, what are you doing with those shelving units? He says, I got them on Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. He says, I'm going to sell them. I says, oh. And then I walked by and there's this window. It's all those block glass windows. I says, that's pretty decorative, but I think you're getting ready to lose that window. A lot of the ceiling's coming out. He says, yeah, I got a bid in to replace it. I says, well, rather than replace it, why don't we put a roll-up door there, get rid of all those shelves, all that stuff you have over there next to your paint booth can come over here, and then you can work on cars right there. I says, that gives you 800 square feet without spending a penny other than the door. And I bet you if you sell those shelves, you'll pay for the door and it's going to be cheaper than fixing that glass. And then he started looking around and he says, man, if I do this and this, he says, I can fix cars right here. I says, yeah, look within your walls before you try to blow out your walls, right? And
true.
That's what I like about my job is I can be that other set of eyes looking at something. And like I said earlier, a lot of times when you go into a shop to fix a problem, you're not fixing that problem. You're fixing a couple others that make that other one go away. and that concrete pad's still there, but he's washing cars on it. That's
Right. I have basically the same story of one of my friends' facility that said he said I need you to come down and give me your expertise on and what I need to do. And I walked in the facility, and 5 minutes later, I said, "All right, it's fixed." Yeah, I said, I have it all figured out. I just have to put it on paper. Give me a couple minutes. I walked over, I sat down at a desk, and I wrote, "Move your toys out of the building to the storage place next door," and wrote $5,000 on the bottom and put my signature on it. And I go, "There's your solution."
yeah.
His boat was in there. He had 4 other antique cars. I'm like, you're taking up 6 of your working areas. You have a storage place next door. Go rent some storage units. Put that stuff away off your property and use your property.
And if somebody would calculate the value of a stall space, what you told them is cheaper than
Yes.
parking it in a shop by thousands of dollars.
Yes, exactly. It was like, wait a minute, storage. You're collecting storage out back for those totals, but you're not paying storage for your own car sitting inside. Get it out.
Right. Exactly.
So, John, one of the things that we talked about when we were putting together this event is good disassembly habits. What are you seeing that's going good out there? And more importantly, what are you seeing that's going not so good out there right now?
I'm still seeing parts ordered the day a car needs to go home, and I was talking to somebody on a Facebook post today is that, the first part you need to reassemble a vehicle is the last part you find. It's your choice when you find that last part. Do you find it today? Do you disassemble it completely? Or do you take it apart far enough? And I says, because far enough is never far enough, and I walk into paint shops and I still see cars there with door handles still in them. Oh, the guy's going to come over and take that door handle out when I'm ready to paint it. Okay. So painting a car is very close to the last thing that's done. So we're going to take that door panel out now. We're going to break a clip.
Oh, absolutely. That's when it happens.
Exactly.
And then where you at with it?
So I have some shops that are doing it very, very well. And I see shops that are doing it very, very well. They could almost write their invoice after they've done their disassembly. It's that good. And then I see others that they're like 80%. But that other 20% is killing them because they're finding structural parts. But what they're finding more is, and it kind of goes beyond the scope of what you asked, but I think it's important to mention, is they're not, during the blueprint process, researching what calibrations are required.
Well, and I was gonna lead right into that, which is what's the diagnostic processes that these shops are doing it right are doing, and what are the shops that aren't doing it quite so well doing? You got your ADAS systems. You have to understand what you're dealing with on the car up front. Otherwise, when you go to deliver the car, you're not going to be prepared for a calibration, or you're not going to have a technician scheduled, or whatever tools, equipment, and resources you have to have. The second part is are they measuring the cars up front? That's a diagnostic process in my book, because how do you know what state the car is in, just like the electronics, if the structural is not measured?
It's funny you mentioned measuring, because I had a shop. I says, why don't you measure the cars when you're before you take anything off, measure the car, scan the car and measure the car. Oh, well, I'll never get paid for that. I says, let me try it. And if you don't get paid, we'll find a way to where you don't lose. This was on a 2018 Honda Accord. It was hit kind of T-boned. It got the B pillar, the dog leg, and the left rear wheel. I said, let's not take any, let's scan the vehicle. We scanned it. And real quick, a misconception is people believe a scan will tell them whether or not a calibration needs to be done. Two totally separate operations, right? So we scanned it, found a couple, airbag codes and different things like that. Then we measured it, and we found that that left side was actually in. So we started documenting. Now, granted, this car was driven in by the vehicle owner with a $3,100 sheet written by a third party. We put it in there. We measured it. The side of the car was in. It was going to need to be pulled. If the side of the car is in, that means structure's compromised, right? You and I know that, but so we started looking and measured the wheel angle on that left rear wheel, found out it was rolled in. And you could see the customer's been driving it because the tire was scuffed. So we measured it. They didn't have all data collision. So I called my buddy. We got all data collision, started looking at what the repair procedures are, because it was rough pull and repair B pillar and dog leg, right? So we started looking, well, the outer panel was in, so we knew the inner panel was in. I said, the only way to find out truly is to cut a hole in this, but let's not do that. So we started looking at the repair procedures. So to fix that B pillar, you have to replace the uniside. So we added a uniside. And if that structure's in, we looked up, it's high strength steel. So all that needs to be replaced. There's 5 pieces in that B pillar. One of them goes up and over and under the roof, which means the roof had to come off. So we added almost $12,000 in repair in that 2018, Honda Accord with 80,000 miles on it didn't survive. But he got paid for the measuring. He got paid, for his paperwork for the total loss. And they never had to take one bolt off. One bolt out of the car.
Well,
measuring is critical.
Measuring is so critical in our own experience here at Spanesi Americas, as we're out working with customers, whether it's in a training situation or whether it's in a demonstration situation. We stress that every vehicle coming in needs to be measured. Our own experience, because we document every time we're in a customer shop what we do, and we talk about it through sales staff and everything when we're having meetings. Cars we're finding that noted on the original sheet, and that's powerful right there. If I'm going to be able to write and find damage in 6 out of 10 cars, I don't care about those other 4. Those other 4 are going to flow through I measured them, but they're going to flow through my system faster and correctly than if I let a car go through that hasn't been measured. That's a problem. Like the vehicle that you
sometime, right?
Right. And like the vehicle that you just talked about, had they not measured that vehicle and started the repair, now I have a bigger can of worms, and I've backed up my production because now I have to backpedal on this vehicle.
Right.
And I got to start all over again. So when a shop turns around and tells me I can't get paid to measure the car, it's a process. You should get paid to be able to measure it. But if I'm only getting paid 6 out of the 10 times, it's still a win for me, because I know those 4 cars are going to flow through real easy, and the 6 that I caught the structural on, they're going to flow through easy also, because now I know exactly what has to be done on the car. And to your point, what if it becomes a total?
Yeah, you find out halfway through the repair, you've got the car cut apart, you got a stack full of parts, that you can't return. The car, 6 out of 10 cars, just like Tim mentioned, have some kind of structural problems. So all those cars are going to have to be measured at some point. Again, just like when you find the last part, you have your choice. You have your choice when you measure the vehicle. And the choice should be the first thing before you take any body panels off.
Well, we're kind of dancing around this, but what we're really talking about is getting cars efficiently through the facility, getting them in and out, key to key as quickly as possible, and not ordering parts at the last moment, not figuring out you've got structural damage at the last moment. What, John, walk us through what it takes to get a car through the facility efficiently.
Yeah, you have to have a first step is a complete blueprint repair plan. Know what has to happen to that vehicle so that you can look, we're talking about structural. Okay. So maybe you have one or two, pieces of frame equipment, right? So you need to schedule that. So what actually needs to go on that frame machine before anything else can be done? So you can look at your repair plan and schedule when those cars are going to hit those marks, so you don't have one or two cars stacked up waiting, because that weight is the issue when cars sit still and wait. The more we can keep cars moving, the better off we'll be. So strong repair plan, and then schedule the repair processes. You have an external glass person. They've got to take glass out to replace a quarter panel or something. Well, you should know when that quarter panel is going to be back on and that glass can be reinstalled. So when you schedule it to be taken out, schedule it to be put back in. And then you work to meet all these timelines. I see cars sitting with bags outside and say, well, we called the glass company this morning to come and put that glass back in. Well, you've known for a week to 10 days that glass is going to have to come back in. Why don't you schedule it? When I was working in the body shop, I worked at a dealership. And if I wanted something done in the service department, we knew about where it was going to be done, and that, need that and be ready for that. So I scheduled it with the service advisor. So that car had an appointment. And we forget about that on our sublets. We call the tire store down the street. Hey, can you do an alignment on this real quick? The car's going to be delivered today. How long did you know that it needed that alignment? So, plan your repair, plan when it's going to hit these different steps, and make sure that you're not putting it in a position to wait, because that's what kills us, is the weight.
Well, and back to your point about measuring, and not to beat measuring into the ground, but at the same time, you're making an appointment for a sublet for that windshield. What if you have to make an appointment for your structural technician because you only have one tech in the facility that has to do your heavy type of work? Now, from measuring that vehicle, I know can this vehicle go to an A, B, or a C tech to be able to facilitate this repair?
Exactly, because those are all resources. Whether it's a sublet, in-house, those are all resources that you hope are obligated every minute of the day, correct?
Right.
Because that's what makes you money. So if they're obligated every minute of the day, you need to plan those minutes. And that's what we don't do. And, I talked to somebody. It was a big hailstorm. I was down in South Carolina, and the guy got 3 roofs in for some Ford Escapes. And he says, oh, good, I got the roofs in. I'm going to send this out to repair. I says, well, is it ready? Is the car ready to go out there? So what do you mean? Well, have you scheduled the glass? Do you have the adhesive for the roof? He says, well, I have enough for one. I says, then schedule one. You're not going to do any good to get that car and get the roof off, even though you have the roof and you don't have everything you need to put the roof back on. Now you've got a car that's going to clog your shop because you can't put it outside because there's no roof on it. So you have to plan the repair, every single facet. I go down each line of that damage appraisal Who's going to do what? When are they available? And do you have everything you need? Is that vehicle ready to be repaired? You might have 2 technicians twiddling your thumbs. Doesn't do any good to give them that vehicle if they can't hit it from start to finish. If
Well,
they have to stop, you're done.
I love the term, John, mirror matching the parts, making sure you have a absolute 100% match on everything you need to do, and getting everything all together, and then push it into production.
Exactly. It doesn't do you any good to partially repair a vehicle, and it just cash flow. Was talking to a shop about cash flow the other day. He says, my guys are 180, 190% productive, but he says, I'm having problems paying them. I says, why are you having problems paying them? He says, I'm putting out this labor. I says, well, how many cars are they working on? So we looked down their stub sheets for what they were paying them for a week. And some of these guys had 20 repairs on there that they were stubbing 3 and 4 hours on. I says, yeah, you guys are 180% proficient, but they're not 180% proficient on a car. They're 180% on 20 cars. So you're paying them for 20 cars. Now, how many of those 20 cars left your shop during that same pay period? Oh, and he got this like kind of a cross between deer in the headlights and ghostly white look on his face. Because he hadn't planned to do it.
Kind of like paying a sales guy his commission before he delivers.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
It's he didn't plan the repair. He pushes cars into the shop. The technicians work as far as they can on them, then they go back outside. There's no repair planning involved. And just like Karl said, you should be able to put a car into a stall and start to finish and have everything you need. And that's down to adhesive, coolant, everything you need to move that vehicle through.
Okay. So, John, I've got a note here, and we're getting close to our time, but I've got a note here from our conversation, and we talk about growth plans, and I think it's a topic. In fact, I'm a firm believer it's a topic that we need to address in this industry, is the growth of our technicians and how we take them from a FED tech to a BCB A tech. What is the plan that we need to be discussing right now? Because we're out of technicians are retiring, and we got to grow this next generation.
So I think the term A, B, and C tech is an old saying. We've got an industry standard, and ICAR is setting it. You're structural 2 or 3. You're a structural pro level 1, 2, or 3. You're a refinish tech 1, 2, or 3. And I think we need to use those to illustrate a growth plan to a young technician. They come in, a lot of the tech schools I support, they deliver that apprentice to a shop as a ICAR Pro Level 1 non-structural tech. So you illustrate to that tech what it takes to them to be that Pro Level 2, and then you put a dollar value on it. And you walk through and show them, And I was in a conversation with some kids at a school, and I have a couple shops in this market that want to bring apprentices in at $13.50 an hour. And this guy popped up and said, well, I can make $15 an hour at McDonald's. I go, yes, you can today. And 3 years from now, with their pay plan, you're going to make $15.30 an hour. But if you follow this employer's growth plan, where you work yourself through the ICAR Pro levels, and each one of those levels has a rate increase to them, you're going to be making over that $15.30 an hour within 6 to 9 months. But we have to show them that.
And you will, we have to show them, number one. Number two is I'm constantly talking with shop owners that say, I don't have the resources to invest in training because as soon as I train them, they leave.
So that goes back to that. Let's calculate and create a labor rate based off of cost of what it costs to maintain that employee, which includes his hourly rate, right? And let's pay him a rate where he doesn't want to leave. Create a work environment where he doesn't want to leave, right?
That's exactly correct. When you start to look at having a path that they could see is a great foundation. Your point to the hourly rate to McDonald's to what you could be if here's the next level you need to get to, and then we can reevaluate where you are and your skill set and move you forward through the industry. Great points.
And I know a shop owner. He was in one of my performance groups that he evaluated his employees every 90 days. I think that's a little extreme, twice a year, I think is good. But those employees knew that when they got that 90-day evaluation, they had an opportunity for a pay raise. It might have been a nickel. It might have been a dime. It might have been $1. But it's all performance and education based. So if you're performing at the level that they expected, plus you gained education that the shop paid for to move you up to the next level, your incremental raises were more substantial.
Well, and people don't leave companies because they're happy.
Right.
So as long as you're engaged with your employees and they see milestones, especially the younger technicians, they see milestones ahead of them and actual goals that they can reach. That's why using the pro level status as you're discussing is an excellent way to be able to do it, because they can find their own path or know their own path up front, to where not using some type of status like that, they're out there just hanging out in the middle of nowhere.
They're floundering,
Yes.
that's what I call. And what I like about, the pro level system within ICAR is that individual technician can go in and look and see where he's at, what he has to do. Oh, but maybe he wants to be a structural technician. He can look at the requirements there and see what he has to do or she has to do to move to that level. And so it's a very good illustration of how somebody can map their career.
Right. Excellent points.
So, John, we're getting close on time, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, as a BASF customer, as a valued BASF customer, what do you offer me from a training aspect, from a support aspect? Let's talk about what you bring in value to your customers and how they can take advantage of it.
They label my position as business development manager. And I don't really like that title, but I'm more of a coach, right? But we have reporting. I can tell you everything that your business is doing, through reports. And what I like the best about our reporting is I can sit in my office or sit in this hotel room right now, and I can look at your business and see what's going on. And I could call you and say, hey, Karl, hey, I noticed that, your paint hours per RO dropped a little bit, and I see a new name here in your estimator list. Have him work with one of your other riders, and let's keep him consistent with the others, and let's get that number back up. We talked about, shops calling me and saying, hey, can you find me a place for another paint booth? So, shop layout, shop designs, training, just our front office training, I think is probably one of the biggest requests I get. Other than the courses I've developed on my own that, Tim and I, we see each other at SEMA and the Northeast show and stuff like that. We're all doing something, presenting something. So hard to put in a little nutshell what we offer. Our business solutions program, I come in and I help you fix what's broke. I know there's some systems that will go in and say, well, if you operate your business this way, you'll be perfect. Well, one, if your doors are open, you're doing something right. So let's look at what you're doing right, and let's fine tune the other areas to get everything working at the same level. There might be just one or two things we have to tweak. So I like to be able to go in there and look and just kind of like that guy that wanted me to help him fix his business. I got my tools, I got my toolbox. Let's find out what's not working and let's make it right up to the level of everything else. So, through our reporting, through our virtual training programs, we got an awesome Learning University. We can qualify painters virtually now. They take all the virtual tests, go through the process. Then we send a tech rep into the shop and do the hands-on qualification rather than disrupting your business and taking them to a training center to learn something in a sterile environment and then go back and try to apply it in your shop environment, which we all know is two separate things. They're able to apply the product using their equipment. And then if we see a problem, it's not working right, we can back into it and find out what piece of equipment's not working right. Rather than saying, oh, let's send you to the training center and let's train you how to do it better. It's very much quite possibly not the training. There's just something wrong with the equipment that we only can find if we do the qualification in that shop. We talked about production, getting things through the shop. We have, our advanced process solutions, and it's a step-by-step program. And we used to come in again and disrupt your business for a week. Now we have your people take those courses virtually, and then we come in and spend a couple days and say, hey, out of those courses, what part of your business do you want us to help you fine tune? Because they're able to identify their faults that way, rather than coming in and saying, hey, your business is broke. We have this advanced product, production solutions program. Let's input it and let's make your business all better. It doesn't work. Let a business owner, a manager, find out where their business is weak, and then let's go in there and fix that portion.
Well, what's the best of all these offerings? Look through a ton of information, or do I reach out to my local BS representative and have them and sit down and have that interactive conversation? Or is it a combination of both? What do you recommend, John?
So every BASF customer has a support team. They have the account rep, a technical support, and they have a business development manager. So any one of those people they can reach out to. Maybe they're more comfortable talking to their technical support guy and say, hey, everything's working good with the paint and the application. He says, but, how do I get some help from my estimators? And then so they reach out to me. I contact the shop. We have great distribution partners, through our driver representatives. Sometimes those people are in the shop more than a BASF person. So I've got to go to North Carolina next week to help a shop with some front office operations where our distribution partner reached out to me and said, this shop needs some help with this. I talked to them. We found out what they needed, and I'll go down there. And that's the thing I like the best about our team concept, is because I don't just go down there to find out what the problem is. I go down there with the solution because my people, whether the technical support or the account rep, they're able to get enough information to give it to me, or I can talk with the shop and develop a solution. I'm not going down there on a fact-finding mission. I'm going down there to fix it.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. That's what we try to do here also.
And it doesn't, you have to go into a shop for the purpose, right? Everybody's busy, and they don't want somebody walking in and, oh, I'm here to help you, but what's the problem? Okay, I'll come back in a couple of weeks with a solution. They want that solution now. They wanted it today. They actually wanted it the day before yesterday, but
and that's absolutely true. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're busy. I know you're sitting in a hotel room and graciously joined us today for this discussion. Where are you going to be open to the public presenting? Do you have any events coming up that you'd like to talk about?
I think the next thing I'm going to do, because things have been moved around, is probably the Northeast show. Is probably the next place I'll be. Things have been shifting around. I've been doing a lot of stuff virtually. Yesterday, before I headed out of town, I don't know if it's a word, but we've been talking a long time, so the tongue gets twisted. But I was doing a virtual damage appraisal documentation course with MSO out in Colorado. So doing a lot of interaction, just like we're doing right now, doing it virtually. And I've got another one being set up for some people in the Texas, Oklahoma region, where we reach out to them virtually.
Well, John, and I'll make the announcement if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
John and I are going to do a joint seminar at the Northeast show, and we're going to discuss some of what we discussed here and probably even more around the blueprinting process and best practices for repair. So I'm pretty excited to be able to partner with John on this, it's going to be a fun weekend, not to mention my 60th birthday. So is that Friday? So you may have to do most of the seminar, John.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can appreciate that. At least most of the thinking,
if you two are together, I might have to come in.
Right,
do
yeah.
the seminar.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty excited. I've been going to that show since 1997, and been presenting there since 1998, and in other positions that I've held within the industry, and was invited to come back, and pretty excited to be able to do it. So looking forward to working with you again.
I think it'll be fun. Months. Yep, I think it'll be great. Looking forward to it.
Well, awesome. I want to thank Mr. John Shoemaker from BASF for taking the time today and joining us on Spanesi Interactive Channel. If you have any questions, write me here at Spanesi. It's media@spanesi-americas.com. And I'd be more than happy to get your questions over to John. Also call us here at 224-SPANESI. And we would be more than happy to get your questions over to John or Tim. Whoever you'd like to talk to, we'll get you taken care of. So on behalf of Tim Morgan, myself, and John Shoemaker from BASF, thank you very much for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks again, John.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.